Hey there, it's Donna. These fabric scrap ornaments are sure to get you inspired for the holiday crafting season. So I'm going to start off with this pretty simple pink as well as this Christmas patterned fabric that I got from the thrift store. I'm wanting to cut some circles out of the fabrics, so I'm using this die set that I have. I'm going to be using my Sizzix die cutting machine. So you could use your scissors and just trace around something to create a circle, or you could use your cutting machine such as a Silhouette or a Cricut, either one. But I have this Sizzix machine and I haven't used it for a while, so I wanted to dig it out, and I knew I had these circle die cutting sets, so I wanted to use those. I should have used a precision plate. This particular one, the Christmas pattern, it cut really easily, but I did find that the thinner pink one, it didn't cut all the way through as well, but once I tried it with the precision plate, it cut really well. So I've got my circles cut out, and now I'm going to cut 2 strands of string. I'm just using some crochet thread. I'm going to fold my circles in half, and then I'm going to just press that seam down, and now I'm going to fold it into a quarter. And again, I'm going to press that down. I wanted to create a bit of a crease there in the center. And now I'm going to leave it folded in half, but I'm going to gather it on that little fold line that I had down the center. Now I'm going to be using my string, and I'm going to wrap it around a couple of times, and then I'll tie it off with a simple knot. And I want to make sure that it's quite tight, but not so tight that I can't move the fabric around if needed, if things are a little bit off center. Now, I was inspired by several different projects that I had seen on Pinterest. I'm going to do my best to have that link down below. I just wanted to give credit where credit was due, just to let you know that I did get these ideas off of other creators on Pinterest, especially this particular project. It is so cute. So I've got my strings tied off, and then I'm just straightening it out. I want to make sure that things are center, and you can see it looks kind of like wings. And now I'm going to do the same thing with this larger circle that's got the patterned fabric. So you can see how these are. I wanted to glue the 2 rounded bottoms together. So here they are. You can see how it's rounded on one side, and then they kind of wing up on the other side. So I want to put those 2 rounded bottoms together, and I'm going to add just a little hot glue. And then I'm going to join those 2 pieces together, just like you see me doing here. Now you can do this all using pipe cleaners or string or wire, whatever you have, but I want to do a combo of some hot glue and some string. Next, I am going to be creating my hanger. Now, I should have actually waited to do my hanger here. I glued it to the back side, but I should have actually glued it to what I consider to be the front side. And you'll see why here in a moment. But if you're not going to do all the steps that I will be doing, then you can just leave this as is. It looks really cute. You can tell it's a butterfly. I thought it would be a fun little Christmas ornament to have for the tree. And you can create these in all different types of colors as well as different fabrics. But I think this is really cute just as is, but I decided I wanted to add a little touch of nature. So I have this red willow branch. Now, what ended up happening was that it added some extra weight, and it ended up hanging funny. So I will show you my fix, but first of all, I'm just going to trim this down to size. I wanted to use that fork in the branch as my antennas. I thought it would work naturally, and I really like the red willow with this fabric combination. So once I'm happy with how that looks, I'm just going to add hot glue in the center, and then I'm going to press my branch into place. I'm just going to hold that and let it set for a little bit. Didn't take very long to set. And this is where I did a test to see how it was going to hang, and see the weight of it had it flip forward, and I didn't want that. So I'm just going to add a little bit more hot glue to the back of the branch, and then I'm going to push my strings into that glue, and then it was able to hang properly. But what I should have done was sandwiched my hanging string between the branch and the butterfly, so it was in the middle. But like I said, I found a fix and it worked well for me, but just wanted to let you guys know that, just in case you decide to make these with the branch. But I love how it turned out. I think it's such a fun and simple project. So for this project, you're going to need a piece of cardstock, or you could use a thinner piece of chipboard and some scraps of fabric. So I am going to do a mix of different shades of green. Now, I had seen again on Pinterest that there was some quilted ornaments, and I really love them, but I'm not a sewer. So I thought, how can I do this? And I remembered I created a faux quilted look using some cardstock and gluing my fabrics down onto the cardstock. Now you could add stitching if you'd like. You can even add faux stitching by adding just a permanent marker. But I felt that it worked out just fine, just gluing all these different pieces down onto my paper. Now I'm using fabric glue. Fabric glue is nice and flexible, so I like to apply some of the glue to my cardstock, and then I take a card and smooth it out. You only want to do this in sections because the glue does dry quite quickly. The paper absorbs a lot of the moisture. So now all I'm doing is randomly placing my little pieces of fabric onto the paper, into the glue. And I do have some raw edges, and I'm allowing those to overlap just a little bit, just enough to create a nice like quilted look. And then I'm going to just continue to add some glue, adding my fabric until I got the page mostly full. I didn't fill it right up because I didn't need the full page, but you can cover this all, and then you've got this to use for all kinds of different projects. So one thing you would just want to make sure you do is that you disperse all your colors evenly throughout. You don't want to have one big clump of one pattern or color in one spot and another big clump in another spot. You want to just create a nice even look throughout. So here is my sheet, and I think it looks great. Now I flipped it over and I'm going to cover the other side. Again, using my fabric glue. I'm just going to cover half of the page, and then I'm going to take my card and smooth that out. Now I did end up adding a little bit too much of the glue in a few areas. The glue ended up seeping through just a little too much, but I'll show you that here in a moment. Next, I've got this piece of some old sheet. It's just a scrap piece of old sheet, and I pressed that down. I decided to do the back side of this with a solid color, but you can do the same technique on this side as well. So I just again did it in a section, so I'm just going to fill in the other side with the glue and smooth it out and press the sheet into place, and then I'm going to cut it and tear it. I like to have a raw edge on my fabric, but that's just me. You can definitely just cut it, and then you want to make sure too that you remove majority of those loose threads because it does end up interfering with things a little bit. Adding a heavyweight board on top while the glue sets. So I had printed these tree templates on Canva. I'm going to have that link for you, so if you want to use one, you can go ahead. I'm just going to cut this one out. I thought it would be a fun one because you can do 3 sections with the different fabrics on this one, but I'm going to cut out the whole image and use that for my template for my tree. So I'm just using my scissors to cut this out, but you can use your Sizzix machine, or if you have a die that would work for that, as well as a Cricut machine or whatever you have. So I've got my fabric all set up and my tree all cut out. I'm going to place my tree where I like it, and then I'm going to cut around it just to remove any of the excess paper fabric pattern that I've got going on, and then I'm just going to take my scissors and cut around it. Now you could trace around it with a pencil and then cut that out, or whatever. But I'm just going to freehand it here. It ended up working just fine for me this time around. I've done this before and I was having troubles with it, but I think it was just the fabric I was using before. For some reason, this technique is working quite well for me this time around. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out, and then I'll show you what to do next. So isn't that a fun and whimsical looking tree? I needed to create a hole punch in the top, so I'm using my Crocodile here, and this is by We Are Memory Keepers, but you could use whatever you have to poke a hole. That's going to be where I'm going to add my string for my hanger. I decided to use some little buttons as some ornaments on my cute little tree. I thought the buttons would be fitting, but you can use some flat back pearls or any other embellishment that you'd like to use, or you could even just leave it plain if you'd like. But I thought the touch of adding these buttons would be really cute. So I'm just going to use some hot glue once I've got the placement, and then I'm going to put these into place. I really like the way this is looking so far, but I wanted the trunk to look like an actual tree trunk, so I'm taking just a little scrap of some burlap fabric and I'm going to glue that onto the trunk and cut around it. You don't have to do this. You can leave it plain green if you'd like, but like I said, I thought it would just look a little bit more natural if I added the burlap to the bottom, and I think it looks just so fun. I could see lots of different shapes being made out of this technique. One thing I'm not sure is if fusible webbing would work on paper and fabric. If you have done that before and you know it works, please let us know down in the comments section, because I think that would actually work really well. But I think the fabric glue works just as well. So now I'm going to add my hanger. I'm doing the two ends through the hole, creating a loop and pulling those two ends through the loop, pulling it tight, and then tying a knot. And then if you want, you can finish it off by adding a cute little star to the top, or you can just leave it as is like I did. I think it turned out great. I can't wait to hang it on the tree. So I have my Sizzix square cutting die set here, and I am going to cut out 3 squares in total. I'm using my mini press to iron them out. Now I saw 2 different tutorials on how to create this, so I'm going to have those 2 linked down below, but I figured that this one was the easiest, where you just take a single square and iron it out, fold it in half and iron it to create a triangle, and you're going to do that with all 3 pieces. There is another technique where you take a length of fabric and fold it into a triangle shape, but like I said, this square worked way easier for me. So I decided I'm going to take my pinking shears to create some texture on the edge. I'm just adding just a little bit here on the edge. I feel that it just helps to take away from the need to have it all lining up perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and just trim all of those down. So you want to have all your triangles laid out as you see them right here. It'll just make it easier to remember how to line them all up. So I've got this one piece where the straight edge is pointing to the left, put my next star on top where the flat edge is pointing up, and then I'm going to take my next one where the flat edge is pointing to the right, and then you can move things just a little bit around just so things look like a star, just like you see me here. And then I'm going to keep them all in place. I'm lifting up some layers, adding a dab of hot glue, pressing the next layer down, lifting up the top layer, again adding a dollop of hot glue, pressing that, and that helps it all stay together. Now you could stitch these all together if you'd like, but the hot glue makes it super easy. Now I'm going to add my hanger. I'm going to use this pretty red and white baker's twine. I thought it went well with this scrap of fabric, again, that I got from the thrift store. I'm going to add a dollop of hot glue in between the layers, put the two tail ends into the glue, and then press the top layer into that, and then your hanger is sandwiched in between and it hangs really nicely. So for an added touch, I decided to add a pretty little red button into the center. You could stitch this on if you'd like, but that's it. It was a really simple project and I love how well it turned out. I created this dress form pattern or template on Canva. So I'm going to again have that link down below for you. I also have one where there's just the outline of the body or the dress form. I'm cutting them out. I'm going to be using this particular one because you can see that it has a top portion and that's going to fold over to create the back side of my dress that I'm creating. So you can see how it works right here. And then I needed to cut out that white triangle that you see there on the top. So I did keep it folded and I'm going to cut through that and then cut out that triangle. You could use, again, your cutting machine if you have one, but I thought not everybody has those machines, so I thought I would try to print it out using my printer and then use my scissors to cut these templates out. So you can get some dress form patterns online as well, just simple templates, so you can do a search. I am going to be using some stiff, sturdy felt that I had in this just this neutral color. You could use any color that you want. I'm going to use a pencil to trace around it, and then I'm going to use my scissors to cut it out. Once you have it cut out, you can cut out that star portion again by folding it and then cutting into it, and then you can just cut out the excess. I was thinking you could probably use a ruler and a craft knife as well if you wanted to make it a little bit easier. I'm just trimming it down just a little bit because I cut it a little bit unevenly, but you can see how it folds over, and then you've got a dress form with some sleeves. And those sleeves are going to be important for us. I'm going to glue that back tab to the back side of our dress form. And now we are going to start to create the rest of it. This is just the base of it. I'm using this beautiful eyelet lace scrap that I had in my stash. Right here, I'm just measuring how much I need to create the skirt portion of our dress. So I'm just going to use my scissors and cut it down. Now, I am creating raw edges, so I just like to cut into it and then I like to tear it and then remove any of the excess little strings. But I like that look. You don't have to do that if you don't like that look. I just thought it would be kind of like a casual, relaxed look for the edge. I'm just cutting this excess here just to straighten out the top edge. The top edge where I tore it, that's actually going to be the bottom edge of my dress that I'm making. I'm just making sure that it's the right height. And now I'm just checking to see how much I need to gather and where I need to trim it down so I have a nice full skirt. And I just cut off that one edge because it wasn't straight. And now I've got my string all ready to go, but I wanted to create like a full tube here. So I'm putting my two edges together and I made sure that the right side of fabric was facing up. Then I folded over. So now this is the wrong side of the fabric that's showing. That will be the inside. So I glued the two edges together. Now I'm going to fold it right side out, and there you can see my seam. I'm using my crochet thread, and I'm just going to be stitching along the edge a basic running stitch. I'm going all the way around the top edge, and I'm going to be pulling it tight when I get near the end. When you get to the end, you want to make sure you start and finish stitching on the same side because we want to be able to tie those two ends together. So you can see I'm just pulling it to gather it just a little bit. Now at this point, you don't want to pull it too tight and you don't want to tie it off. I'm just going to set that aside. And now I am going to just take some strips because I tested it out and my skirt wasn't quite full enough underneath. You could see my dress template form underneath. So I'm just cutting some strips and I'm going to glue these pieces onto the form just on the skirt portion. Now I'm using the same fabric that I used for my skirt, but I had seen some use tulle, or I had seen others use lace or even some ribbon trim. You can use whatever you want. You just want to make sure you have it nice and full to create a nice full skirt look. So I'm just adding 3 strips folded in half, and I'm just kind of gathering them so you can see how it just makes it a little bit more full. And I'm going to do the same thing on the back side. Now you can see that the pieces are nice and long. I wasn't sure how short I needed to make them. I also wanted them to be kind of lopsided too. I find that if they're like different lengths, it creates a bit more of a full look. Before I add my skirt though, I wanted to cover up the shoulder part of this dress. So I'm going to use just some crochet lace that I had on hand, and I'm going to use my hot glue and cover those pieces up. Now you can make these dresses as simple and as fancy as you'd like. It really depends on the trims and lace and fabrics that you use. I was somewhat inspired by like Little House on the Prairie, where they have nice, pretty simple dresses, and even like their Sunday dresses they were so pretty and tasteful, but yet they were really, really simple. And I just love that look. So this kind of inspired me to create this dress. Again, just really simple. And I like the neutral look as well. And you could, like I said, totally dress this up any way you'd like. So once you've got those bases all in place, now you can slip your little skirt over top of your dress form. So you can see I pulled it down to the waist and all those little extra pieces are tucked underneath. I'm going to pull this tight. You don't want to pull it too tight to cinch in the waist too much, just enough so it stays in place. I'm going to tie a simple knot, and then I'm going to trim down the extra string pieces. You could add a touch of glue underneath to help hold the skirt into place if you'd like. I found that I actually didn't need to do that. If I was selling one of these though, I definitely would make sure everything is glued in place. Now I can trim down all those extra little pieces underneath. I just wanted to do that, but you could definitely leave them all dangling down. That would create a very artistic look. But again, like I said, I wanted to create a bit more of a Little House on the Prairie look, so I wanted to clean that up underneath. I'm going to trim down another little piece of my eyelet lace. I'm cutting a strip here where the flowers are in the center, and I'm going to be creating a band that's going to wrap around the middle. I'm doing that because I wanted to cover up all the stitching that is on the top of our skirt, as well as hide the bottom portion of that crochet lace where the arm sleeves are. So I'm just going to use my hot glue, and I'm going to fold the edge to create a hem, and I'm going to do that along both edges to create a nice clean strip of fabric. So now I'm just going to measure to make sure I have enough of a piece here. I'm adding some glue at the top, and I'm going to press that fabric band into place. I've decided to make sure that there was a little flower that was centered at the front. I thought it would be a pretty little decorative touch. I'm going to wrap it around, I'm going to glue the one end down, And I'm going to glue the other end down as well, but I ended up having to trim it a little bit because it was a tiny bit too long. If you didn't want to create your own waistband, you could definitely add some ribbon trim of some type. I actually think some velvet ribbon would be really, really pretty and elegant touch. So I'm just going to finish this up here, just cleaning up that middle edge that hides all the mechanics of the little skirt that we created. I wanted to finish off the back, so I decided to add a button that hides all the work of the seam around the waistband that we had made. So that's on the back side. You can see how cute this is. I can't wait to make some more. I think it's just a beautiful, fun project. So now I wanted to create my hanger. I decided I'm going to use a branch. So I'm just going to cut this branch down to size. You could definitely buy mini hangers, or I have seen people even use paper clips to create a hanger, but I decided I'm going to use a branch because, again, this is like a country inspired little project here, and I thought the branch would be so fitting for that. And plus I always like to add a touch of nature to my projects, so I trimmed that down, and now I'm going to be using some galvanized wire to create the hanger portion. So I'm just going to cut a strip of this wire down. If I can remember the gauge of this, I will have it written down. I'm trying to decide how I should do this. So I decided to remove the branch because I wanted the hanger to be in the middle of the branch, just like a real hanger would be. So I'm taking one end, and I've got a long tail. I'll need two long tails, one longer than the other. I wrapped it around the middle a few times, and now I'm using some needle nose pliers, and I'm going to twist those two pieces or those two tails of wire together. That will create a nice thick little hook. Now, I could have used a thicker gauge wire, but then I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to wrap it around the branch really tight, but you could always add just a tiny bit of glue in the center there to help hold the wire in place if you need to. So I twisted the wires together and I created my little hook, and that's what you're going to use to hang it on the tree. I thought it would be a really pretty touch. You could always just glue a little ribbon if you'd like. Just depends on the look that you're going for. I think this is such a cute little hanger, and it does slip through the armholes nicely. And I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue by just bending the branch down a little bit, and then just sneaking my little nozzle in there, and I'm going to add just a touch of hot glue to help hold the hanger into place on both sides. I felt like it just needed a little something more, so I decided to add a little button on the hanger, and I think that just finished it off nicely. You can add any embellishments that you like. I absolutely love this little dress. I seriously cannot wait to make more. I think they would make a great little thing to sell as well as gift, and would make a great memory keeper. I have some more fabric scrap Christmas ideas for you to check out right here in this video. Let me know what your favorite project today was, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.